Hi everyone, Grant K here for the Flame Learning channel. In the first two parts of the new connected color workflow, we looked at the metadata connection and workflow between Lustre and Flame. For anyone in the middle of a grading session, this gives you the ability to access the Flame Product VFX Creative toolset without manually exporting or fiddling about with the applications. In part 3, we'll go through each of the products to see how they handle the grade and VFX metadata that is generated by the connected color workflow. In all instances, you'll be able to repurpose the data, as well as create presets that can be applied without having to switch between applications every time. So let's start off in Lustre, where I already have a graded shot that also includes a VFX composite. This has all been created during the grading session. Now the very big point is that the batch setup has become part of the Lustre grade metadata. It is stored within the Lustre's project structure, and that makes Lustre fully aware of the VFX composite. So let's say you want to copy my grade from one shot to the other. You can open up the storyboard and hold Ctrl in order to drag and drop the grade between shots. This will carry over the grade information as well as the VFX information to the new shot. Just remember that when you copy the grade and VFX metadata to the new shot, you will need to go to the Effects menu and render the batch setup. Please note that this is making Flame perform the render in the foreground and not Lustre. So even if the Lustre UI is on screen, Flame is still rendering the updated frames. For Flame artists that use Burn for background rendering, you could click the Burn button to send the batch setup to be processed in the background, and the frames will appear in the Lustre timeline when the render is complete. Now you can apply the grade metadata to individual shots, or you could define a scene range and use this option instead. So copying the grade with the batch setup is pretty straightforward. You can also select the shot and save the grade into the grade bin. The grade bin saves the grade metadata as well as the batch VFX metadata as part of the grade preset. So you can select another shot and just apply the grade from the grade bin. The grade is applied, and so is the batch setup. As before, the batch setup needs rendering through the Effects menu. But bear in mind that this is still fully editable in Flame. So you can make changes to the VFX if needed, and then render the batch setup. I also want to point out that by using the selector, you can also choose whether you copy just the grade or alternatively just the batch setup. This is quickly done by locating the batch component of the grade and applying it to the shot. This is the same as choosing specific grading components and applying them to the shot. It's a very flexible structure, so you can chop and choose what you need. A final word before we move on to Flame is that when it comes to archiving, the grade and VFX metadata will be archived with the Lustre project. This is due to the fact that I mentioned earlier that the grade and VFX metadata is part of the Lustre project structure and is organized accordingly to do so. Now let's switch over to Flame, or it could be Flare for that matter, and look at the Lustre node again. So as you have learned throughout this series, the Lustre node represents the Lustre grading pipeline in batch. I also mentioned that the batch setup files are managed by the Lustre project and are part of the grade metadata. But the Lustre node itself is still a processing node in the flow graph and can be treated as such. Now you can't edit the Lustre node in Flame, as it's processing grade metadata from the Lustre grading pipeline. However, you can use Lustre nodes and save them into the custom node bins in batch. The advantage of this is that you can call up different grades and try them out during a session. For example, you could be sitting with a client and looking at different grading experiences in the context of the composite. This gives you a more holistic perspective about what you'll be delivering at the end of the pipeline. So this can be extremely useful. However, before we conclude this video, there are just a few extra points you need to know. Firstly, the connected color workflow is built around the Lustre node and the write node in batch. If you save the Lustre node into the custom node bin, you can use it as previously mentioned, but there is an exception. If the Lustre node in the custom bin relies on an external mat from Lustre, then it will give error messages if you try to use it. This is because the node requires the mat to function, but it won't be able to locate it. The second point regarding custom Lustre nodes is that you can load it into another existing batch setup. It will not overwrite the settings from the original Lustre node created from the workflow. The original Lustre node is the main data connection between Lustre and Flame. You can add multiple Lustre nodes into the flow graph, but they will just be seen as regular process nodes in the batch setup. They cannot replace the original Lustre node's connection back to the Lustre application. Thirdly, it is possible to move custom nodes between Flame systems, even with only a Flame or Flare. The Lustre node will work unless it requires an external reference such as a Lustre plugin, LUTs, color transforms, or external mats. Finally, Lustre is a Linux-only application. Therefore, if you loaded a batch setup containing a Lustre node on any Flame product running on the Mac platform, the node will simply be ignored and act as a pass-through. This means that even though the node is not active, the batch setup can still be rendered. So the grade metadata and batch setup are part of the Lustre project structure. But as you have seen, there are multiple ways to repurpose all the metadata in either Lustre or Flame. In part 4 of the Connected Color workflow, we'll take a look at a typical scenario of receiving an updated edit of the timeline, and how Change Cut will deal with the grade and VFX metadata in all the different shots. Be sure to check out the other videos covering the features, workflows, and updates to the Flame 2017 products. Comments, feedback, and suggestions are always welcome and appreciated. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe to the Flame Learning channel for future videos.